It takes about 10 minutes to start a demo like this, you know. Okay, so I'm going to be painting in acrylics. This is the brand I use currently. It's by Royal Talons and it's the Amsterdam range. It comes in as a standard and an expert range. I'm using mostly standard. I tend to use, there's my palette, the yellows and orange and white are artist quality. Practically everything else is the standard range. I work with large flathead brushes, like so. There probably won't be much drawing. I'm going to go straight in with paint. By the way, yeah, I think Sherry did say, if you've got any questions, my partner Marie is here to relay them to me if you want to put them in the chat. If not, I'll just drone on. Okay, so I also work on canvas and I've laid down a base color. Okay, so I'm going to start with my largest brush to start with. This is a De La Rowney Skyflow brush. It's 2.5 inches, I think. No, it's 2 inches. Just going to damp it in water. So I've damped it in water, just get the excess water out. And what we want to do really is just dive in, and I put some magic tape around just so at the end I can create a nice clean border so it looks a slightly more finished painting. What I will do is use the sides to do a bit of color mixing so you can see a little bit of the color mixing process. Oh, right, just gotta admit Tony in. Okay. Right, I'm going to start with the warm flesh tints. And obviously there's a lot of white mixed in. So I'm going to use a bit of white, but I actually want to make sure color comes out a little bit more. So I'll use some yellow ochre, bit of medium yellow, some burnt sienna, bit of red, bit of orange. Just try this color at the corner. Yeah. So initially, what I need to do is really flood the brush with quite a bit of paint. And I won't clean this brush either. Just added a bit of bright pink. Just want a bit of light blue and a bit of light turquoise green. And really just make a mark just to start off the process. So something like that. A bit too much white coming from there. So just get, okay. So yeah, I've just put a little bit more in the way of color in and just drag the paint down. Just want a bit more blue. Almost just working on this side of the face, so I just wanted to go a little bit duller, I suppose. Just pick up a little bit more in the way of reds. And just drag this color down. Normally, before a demo, especially an afternoon one, I do some painting in the morning just to warm myself up. But we spent all morning with estate agents, so almost need to engage myself with this. Okay, just drop some color like so. And that there. Okay, so his nose is, in the photo, it's obviously quite a light pink, but to start off with, we actually just want to push the color out a little bit more. And his lips are about there. The eye sockets are going to go there, but I just want to get a bit more color coming in on that side. Okay, so back into white. Whenever you use white with acrylic, I'm always a little bit worried that that tint is just going to drain out color. Even though it's a light color, just want to make sure that there's a little bit more just fizz coming from it. So we'll try this color. A bit more yellow. And just drag that. And just wanted to break away maybe a few marks. and just in here. Okay, so the eye socket's going to go about there. So it should look like this at the beginning. Fairly chaotic, fairly random, I suppose, because it can only get better.
Would you like a question?
Yes, I'd love a question.
So, are the marks describing the form as well as colour?
Just got to admit. Where's my mouse gone? Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Are the marks describing the form as well as the colour?
Okay, so are the marks describing the form as well as the colour? Probably yes, a bit of both. What's more important for me is for me to engage with the painting. I kind of feel like I need to kind of get in with it with some large, expansive marks. So more importantly is me just kind of making some marks. I guess along with that is I'm trying to, so the nose is going to go there and the eye sockets are going to go there. So I'm aware of, I've got to create some sense of that there's a form going to emerge from this. It's unusual, I guess, because I suppose when I paint like I'm doing for a demo, I'm not really too self-conscious about the process, relying a little bit more off the back of something happening. So I'm not really going through too many steps in my head about, oh, I've got to get the eyelashes in or the right tone. I am kind of just seeing what the marks do. And even if I feel like doing a mark that just breaks out of some of these shapes, I don't want to feel restricted by what the image is telling me. So there's probably loads going on in I've got so much going on at the moment. So I'm trying to get rid of the residue of the other stuff in order for me just to have that one brain cell working on painting. So I've got a nice collection of skin tones here, which I can still dip in because I'm using quite neat paint and quite weighty paint. Just drop that there. Okay, so it's obviously got a jacket. The background's going to be green. There's a bit of light on this side. Well, I kind of like this kind of plethora of different kind of marks and colors. Yeah, you probably don't get the full impact of it off the screen. The last thing I want to do is actually do a portrait where I do accurate eyes and stuff like that. This is all about finding the overall shape. Got to drop some darks in. I'll drop some darks in now because there's going to be the facial hair coming through. Okay, so just going to drop in some deep violet, some burnt sienna. This is magenta. And maybe a bit of phthalo green. Just want to try a few things out in terms of some slightly darker shades, maybe in here. A lot of them won't work, but even having something there is interesting. Okay, a bit more in the way of phthalo green. So I don't use burnt umber. A lot of people, when they do portraits, I suppose more traditionalists use burnt umber a lot, but I kind of, I had my fill of that when I was younger. So yeah, I've stopped kind of using that color. Yeah, so just tentative steps, just trying to find the rim of the beanie hat. Got to obviously dive in there in a minute, just again, a few marks there. So that's why I don't like using too much white, because it's in the brush and it's just going to corrupt color. Okay, and I don't want too much of that dark tone coming in there just yet. So this is a new addition to my palette. It's kind of like a warm gray or neutral gray. So this just helps to just dull the color off. a little bit. And we can just do a couple of things, for example, just finding something like that for that eye socket. Could be a bit light, I suppose. And just over here, he's got fairly pronounced eyebrows. And there. And so we've got the other eye there, and we'll just block that in like so. And we've got the other eye, yeah, so it's round about there. So because I don't want to get too invested in each bit, I'll make a conscientious effort to do that and then maybe work on something slightly less stressful like the hat or the background or the jacket, a bit more in the way of blue. Maybe just drop some color. By using the same brush, obviously, even though that looked quite strong, when it goes on, it's going to run into the other colors that have accumulated on the brush. And so a couple of colors. And again, we'll just drop some of these in. I kind of think with portraits, because you don't really know this person, you've got to make the painting engaging to everyone, which is why obviously, you know, putting these colors in will make at least the process look a bit interesting. Something like that. Nice shot of orange, which I'll introduce shortly. Again, just try some colors out. Like so. And try a bit of green. I just know green's going to be introduced fairly shortly for the background. So I just wanted to make sure that it came in. Some of it is in the face. Just bring it in for the hat as well. And just drag this out on here. And yeah, it's going to be a bit grey there.
Okay, question. Roughly how big is your canvas or board?
Okay, so someone's asked how big is my canvas. This is the standard size for demos that I do. It's 24 by 30 inches. Normally, I'd probably do a demo which covered all of it. But I thought I've done a couple of my own videos where I've done a little swatch, and I thought that was quite informative rather than, you know, do that or show you my mixing trays. Okay, so there's a lot of, the question was, there's a lot of paint in my palette. How does it not go to waste, and why doesn't it dry out? So the wells of this palette is called the Radial Palette. You can get it from Ken Bromley, the SSA, or Amazon. The wells are quite deep, so that takes longer for the environment to start to dry out the paint. I've also got quite a bit of paint out, which also takes longer to dry. I also dip in the paint on a regular basis. I'm not hopefully dwelling too long on putting paint on, unless I'm talking. Yeah, just pure weight of paint and the palette. I might use this for the second one. All I do is skim maybe the unwanted color with a palette knife off the surface of this yellow, for example. The other colors aren't too bad because they're darker, more dominant colors. But certainly with the lighter colors, I need to be a little bit more aware of that.
You cover it,
and I do cover it with a cake stand.
Okay, got another question.
Okay, another question.
So would you advise using student quality paint for starting, as you use a lot of paint?
Okay, so the question was, would I advise using student quality paint to start, or artist quality? I would definitely go for student quality, because you know what, unless you've got a surefire guarantee that, for example, if I was doing a painting, I'd need some kind of guarantee somewhere along the line that I was going to sell something if I was going to use that much artist quality paint. So what I do, I improvise a little bit by using some artist quality and some student quality. When I started out, certainly painting in this style, it was only student quality because I just couldn't afford it. And no one ever complained. So I didn't really, it didn't really worry me that I was using student quality. With acrylics, the only thing I would say is try to use it neat. Whatever you're using, if you start diluting it or start playing with it, the colors are going to go very, very flat very quickly. So just don't antagonize it by constantly blending and playing with it. You want to kind of see a mark, apply it, and then kind of move on quite quickly without too much in the way of overworking. Acrylic just doesn't work well like that. Think of it as watercolor rather than oil. So just making some inroads. Obviously that shape is too big for the eye, but I'd rather go larger than smaller because I can use a light color to just cut into that shape. So I've started some marks within there. I want to get the background in quite quickly. We'll just find the shadow for the nose. Yeah, and again, I've got some colors I can use there. I can maybe adapt it by, so I've just picked up a bit more purple, and we're just going to try and locate some softer shapes. Just got to be aware of time as well. Okay, and just there. So I can use just the very edge of the brush if I want to in some instances. Yeah, obviously he's wearing glasses, so I've got to consider that as well. Maybe get a few lines in, just guidelines to help me find the shape. And yeah, we'll go for some slightly softer pinky, I say pinky colors, it's just whatever comes out on this brush. That's probably about right. Yeah, so just looking for the eyelids. So the gray of the eyes will be planted in fairly soon. And so these are going to be obviously a lot lighter colors. Yeah, I'd like to do something in the background. So I'll just move to a clean brush. Just want some of the green to, I mean, some of it pops there, so I'll maybe pop some of it, but I don't want the green to be too bright. So that is brilliant green, I think. Bit of gray, bit of light blue, bit of white. Maybe get a bit of yellow in there. And just drop some of that color in. That's gone a bit strong, so just remove that. So the other thing I might want to do is, while I've got this green, just maybe pepper the portrait a little bit with some of this green. Just adapt it with sometimes I have Marie sneaking around taking photos, and the last workshop, last Zoom demo we did, her little head popped up in the corner. It was hilarious because she's quite short. Yeah, no one needs to know that. Don't tell anyone. Okay, so I've just put a bit more yellow ochre. So I want to use this light greeny color as a bit of a light tint within the face. Yeah, so colors, there's a chance colors could go a bit messy because I'm using a few, but that's kind of the risk you take. I'd rather take a risk than not. Otherwise, it's just going to end up as a bland. Certainly, color-wise, it will end up quite bland. So the color there. In fact, this is quite nice. So I want to work making roads in here with this color. Just might have to wait for the thing to settle down a little bit more. A bit more on the way. So just one dip and then pull out. And yeah, so it's going to be fairly light here. A bit more in the way of some warmth sneaking in, maybe some orange. Yeah, kind of playing around there a little bit. Very conscious that I shouldn't be doing that. In fact, it's better to just go like that. So one of the things with painting like this, you kind of got to maintain that iron grip on it. Otherwise, if you start being tentative, it will show with the kind of marks you use. Okay, so just wanted to lighten this bit. Yeah, there's a bit of green just coming through here. It's really where the glasses are. And there's a lighter bit there. Okay, so obviously the nose is going to be a lot lighter, but again, we'll come to that in a second. It's going to lighten a bit of the ear. For those of you who don't know, I did have a book on portraiture out. Well, no, the year before. This year, last year obviously is just, we don't count last year. Yeah, so my last book was painting portraits in acrylics, so you can get it on Amazon. So if you miss anything today, it will be in the book. And just kind of block this in. And just over here. And just drag that light around. So in actual fact, the first layer I put down, it just kind of just sits back as I start to add these lighter touches. There's going to be darker things, darker colors coming in as well. Okay, and just in here. This guy's name is Georgie. He lives in the Ukraine. And yeah, lovely, lovely bloke. He's also an artist. And his partner is as well. So, okay. Right, so we'll just start in the background. I'll stick with this brush. So it's kind of green, so phthalo green, purple, burnt sienna, and funny, I've been looking at a lot of paintings recently with very close tones. So what that means basically is, so there's a lot of midtones in here, a couple of bits of dark, no really strong lights. So I was tempted to go dark with the background, but we'll keep it mid-toned. And then we can pounce with some strong darks and lights at the end. So we'll just try this out. Just a little bit flat, that. And just a bit more yellow. So I can use a background to almost shape the jawline a little bit more. I'm conscious even at this stage not to invest too much in creating such a hard line.
There is a lot of different colours in your palette. Are they the colours you use for all your work, or are they selected for today's demos?
Okay, so someone has just asked a question. Are these the colours I normally use, or is it purely for today's portrait? These are pretty much the colours I use. I like choice. It's funny because I've done some painting recently where I've just created more harmonious mixes, more less variation. But I always have quite a few colors. The only thing is, the way I look at paintings anyway, when I look at painters I like, they tend to include things which are quite hard to read. So for example, if I was using a green and I all of a sudden put, I don't know, magenta in it or orange, as that color infiltrated the greens, it just changes that brush mark from the last one I used, or the one I'm going to use in a few strokes time. So I'm quite keen on those subtle variations of whether you turn the brush or the kind of marks used, like, if I twist the brush as I create these diagonals, it's not just one movement. I started that way, but then eventually, maybe to create texture or movement, I'll use these marks with more variety. Okay, so just want to drop the orange in over here, so I can kind of get an idea of what I need to do with the portrait as I'm working on these peripheral areas, because it just give a chance for the paint to settle down, and then I can be very direct about where highlights are going to go. I used to do portraits the way you should do, which is grid everything out, start with one good eye, and then, so just someone in the waiting room. Okay, there we go.
Okay, so which artists have influenced you or do you admire?
The artist I admire most is Marie.
Oh,
she's a wildlife artist. She's just over there.
He's lying.
Yeah, Marie's. Yeah, it's really weird because when I was young, I used to have to go to the library and get huge oversized art books out, and I'd have that for quite a while, for however long you could have that book, and then I wouldn't take it back and I'd have to pay the overdue fee. But I used to have those books for ages, and I'd get books on Titian and Velasquez, so I'd really spend some time with it. Nowadays, you can gorge something in, like in an hour, and then you've moved on. But I definitely like, all the greats. Velasquez, I like Caravaggio, Andrew Wyeth, American realist artist. They've all got their kind of, little special turns they did for the time. I think the only thing about art nowadays, it's kind of like rehashing ideas a little bit, and the originality of it is kind of harder to find. I still find artists who were around late 18th century who I hadn't heard of. So there's a watercolorist called Maurice Pendergrass, who's amazing, and he looks really contemporary, and he's been long gone. So I mean, there's obviously like modern artists I like. I'm much more a painter, so I don't really it's so tricky because you'll say I don't like installations or video art, and then next week I'll find a really good installation artist. So it's one of those things. But yeah, as what I do, definitely you know, the Van Gogh. I mean, you can't beat that really. Okay, so a bit of grey there, and again, while I've got this grey, I'm going to just work it into the face a little bit. That way, all the colours will kind of unite.
Okay, can you remind me?
Okay, so right, so we're going to start going in with some strong lights and some strong darks, and so if I occasionally jog the thing.
Okay, someone said when we came to Sigma a few years ago, you demonstrated a portrait using rectangles and boxes. Do you still work that way as well?
Okay, so someone just asked a question a few years ago, or a couple of years ago. I was in Sidmouth teaching at the East Devon School there, and I was showing a portrait using boxes and basically geometric shapes. Yeah, I'm always big on that. I haven't, to be honest with you, I kind of, yeah, that was the robot, I think. Yeah. I am, it's really tricky because I have a style, but I'm always adapting it because I kind of, I'm really interested in what else I can do with stuff. So yeah, I'll do that, and then I'll spend a few months looking at no-tan design, which is, you know, very basic shapes. But I do like the idea of like all the bits I'm doing now are going to be decorative, whereas the first bit I started with, which is blocking in something that almost looks abstract, is where really most of the design happens. So me making this look more three-dimensional is more to do with you know, beautifying it, whereas the initial stage I always find more enlightening. Okay, so we're going to drop in some stronger highlights. So white, mid yellow, bit of orange.
Remember the girl in the pink t-shirt?
Do I remember?
Someone's put the girl in the pink t-shirt.
Someone said, do I remember the girl in the pink?
No, I'm
what?
asking. Someone said, yeah, the girl in the pink t-shirt.
Yes, yes, I do remember. By the way, I am in Sidmouth this year in September, all being well, obviously, on the 4th and 5th. So if you're interested in like a general acrylic course where we'll cover a few things, I'll be there. I'm also going to be demonstrating live, hopefully, on the 6th at in Seaton, which I think is near where you are. So I'll probably eventually put stuff like that on my website. But yeah, no, I'm going to be in the area. Okay, so just, yeah, it needs to be a lot lighter than that. When you use acrylic, sometimes when you put a tint on, you think, oh, that's quite nice. It's just going to fade in, so it needs to be a lot stronger, something more like that. You've got to fight through. Obviously, some of these layers are still fairly thick, but as long as I dominate it with more paint, it should be okay. Essentially, what you're looking for is you've got various investments in here and you're just wondering which one's going to pay off. So some colors you're just going to eradicate completely, but others may well just splinter through a little bit. Bit more in the way of some turquoise. So that then has to meld in a little bit. So a bit more in the way of orange, bit of pink. Just so I'm kind of working to my strongest lights by all accounts. So it's, yeah, again, almost running out of space here. I might have to use my mixing tray. Okay, so that I've been doing a lot of wildlife art recently because, yeah, just getting into that side. My partner Marie, she does a lot of wildlife art, so I've jumped on her bandwagon, if you like. We're both going to be featured on the David Shepherd. We're going to be featured artists.
Someone said they love your pangolins.
Thank you. Thanks for liking my pangolins. They're very endangered, so you got to love them. Yeah, so we're going to be featured artists for the David Shepherd Foundation in July. So lots of wildlife art. I might show you one when I finished, maybe in the second half. There's a couple of the galleries who show my work tell me don't show anyone your work till they get it, because they want it to obviously be kind of premiered. But I'm not showing that work to those galleries, so it should be okay. Okay, so just dropping these tints. So there's some subtle colors coming in here. And we'll quickly move along.
Someone says they're painting along and they said, gosh, you've got to work fast, but it's good to try. Thanks, and great demonstration.
Well, if someone's painting along, maybe we can compare them. I'm sure it'll be a lot better than mine. I've had so much drama. I won't go into it because it's really dull, but I just want to paint, and there's all this other drama going on. And I wish it wasn't. Really, really wish it wasn't. Okay. And the problem is, no, Marie always has to stop me. The problem is, we've been gorging on 6 seasons of this drama called Vikings, and I really like the way they resolve their problems. It just seems to be so quick, but you can't do that now. You just can't. Okay, anyway, back to stuff. Yeah, so just dabbing in. So the paint's quite thick, so there's a bit of a textural quality there. And we'll just yeah, just lighten maybe that part up as well. It's going to be light here. And up there. Yeah, so just there's a bit of a patchwork of, you've got much more impressive facial hair than me, but there are a few little gaps here, so we're just dropping in some color here. Okay, so that's going to be lighter. Obviously, that's going to be lighter. It's just a slightly different feel to it because the light within there is a little bit cooler. So maybe we'll lighten the nose first, I think. So I'll do another kind of 10 minutes or so. That should be enough time to finish this off. It's always tricky pacing yourself because you kind of you want to showcase enough of it, but not kill the initial flurry of marks a bit more. Okay, so just.
Okay, so someone said you paint very quickly. Do you always resolve your paintings in one sitting?
Okay, so someone's just asked, I work quick. Do I always resolve the painting in one sitting, normally over, at the very most, 2 days, 3 days. Normally I work on a few things anyway. It's never exclusively one thing. I actually quite like the way the commercial concerns dictate terms. So, for example, if you have a style, so for example, when we enter the David Shepherd wildlife competition, as we do, well, I have for the last 3 years, I endeavor to finish my paintings quite quickly because I work on a few things. So if I do a painting in 2 days and I put a particular price on it, and someone else might spend a lot of time on something, there's the kudos of just spending more time isn't really something you would measure commercially anyway. But if you work quick and you got the same amount of money for painting that someone else would spend a week on, then economically speaking, God, that sounds really like I'm an accountant. But just the numbers make sense, and it's a really hard lesson to learn. So I think the speed is just necessity, and I think that's developed my own take on painting because I want to be, I want to engage with it. I don't want to spend time on a painting where it's like, you know, walking through mud. I actually want to feel like I'm making inroads to the end rather than this like long marathon that I have to chase. Okay, so that's going to be my smallest brush. This is like a 1 inch, I suppose, just for some things. I'll come to that in a second. Just want to work on the eyes and then just, yeah, doing way too much talking here. So just, okay, so. Definitely this lockdown period has made me less reliable because I've lost sense of time. Yeah, I just need to soften some of the stuff. Okay, so that dark is quite severe, so we'll just soften that off. I do have a YouTube channel which has some previous demonstrations on, plus a couple of speeded up bits and pieces. So just type in my name and you'll come across it. Okay, so I want to get some darks in as well. Just want to finish off maybe sharpening up the features a little bit. Yeah, I'm a bit reticent to use too much line work here. He looks more friendly in the photo. I've definitely made him look more imposing. Okay, so just a little bit of dark in these bits. Again, need to probably use some light here. Going to get the glasses in very soon. Just pull the eyes out a little bit. That sounds painful. So I'm using phthalo green, a bit of that, and probably a bit of Prussian blue. Prussian blue is my darkest color. and it just will override a lot of the earlier midtones. I would have used a bigger brush for this, but we'll just use this one, just because I'm holding it. So I will twist this around at the very end, just add some blue. So for the latecomers, I'm going to do a lady next. Like I said, we'll have a 10-minute and just spend another 5 minutes on this, another couple of minutes. I think you get the idea. When I see demos, I always think it's to do with like what's the main drive of the painting style, and it's all really speed. So this end bit is all about just this pecking at the scene to just draw some more shapes out. So a couple of lines there. So years ago, I would have got a little rigger brush out for this, and we would have been here a long time. But now flathead brush. So what I can do is go width-wise, and then I can instantly change it into a little spindly mark. Yeah, I've definitely made him look more moody. And he's not, he's a really lovely paper. Okay. On the way of blue. Nearly there with this. I will unmute everyone, by the way, just to give you a heads up, so you can talk to each other.
They can unmute themselves.
Oh, okay. Well, don't do it yet, because I'm not finished yet. Don't start saying how bad it is. Okay, so that there, just really quickly, a couple of little highlights I'll drop in at the depth of this. Okay, so where the cap is, just a couple of little lines. So I'm not big on doing little sparkly eyes. That's not me. That's a Victorian painter who does little children with sparkly eyes. I tend to like to just leave the eyes as slightly less toyed with. Okay, so yeah, get bored looking at lines, so we'll just do a couple of lines. Just do a quick final flurry on the jacket. It's fairly quick. The temptation is always to feel you need to sledgehammer. I mean, I still have it now. Started that way. It's very hard to break away from this idea that, oh, I'll just do more and more and more. But yeah, it's definitely not overly necessary. Okay, so just 1 or 2 minutes. So white and light blue, I think, a little bit of blue, just to pop a couple of these little, too much. Just wanted it to lift that little bit more. Just around here. Around there, and just the odd sharp edge. There. So I can use a little bit more white with this, just to moisten the lip. And just on the nose. And you always tend to see something like the blasted shadow around the lens, but I might put that in. I'll just finish this off and then I'll improvise something really quickly. Yeah, got a pre-mixed color from a previous application, so just that there. Right, I think for this one anyway, I don't think I'll do any more, because I kind of think it gives you an idea of starting off. I'll just take the tape off so you get a nice clean edge.
Someone said the eyes are the hardest for the ladies painting along.
Yeah, the eye, don't do the eyes, just leave them. Who cares? The good thing about this tape is, yeah, you do get this nice kind of fairly clean finish. Okay, so that's kind of like the first one. Okay, so I suggest we have a little break for something like 10 minutes, just so I can prep the next one, and I'll be doing a lady next. A bit of white. So I've got a mid-yellow and a lemon yellow, yellow ochre, bit of orange, a bit of burnt sienna. Just got to grind this color in a little bit. And just want to use a bit of green as well. The only thing is on her top, there's some really nice colors, which will contrast the more greeny yellow effect. So just thinking ahead a little bit. Okay, so I just want to go kind of straight down. Just run a little bit of orange. Maybe even add, so this is buff titanium. Normally I hate these. That buff titanium I never would use, but just been doing a few paintings where I've been looking for some softer color, or just almost nondescript color. So a bit in the way of purple as well, and ultramarine violet. So I kind of want this slightly softer, glowy appearance, and so some of these colors almost have to not so much blend in, but just not be so jarringly contrasting. So I slowly want to use this kind of browny ochre color for the subtle change of light in the face, maybe even a bit of magenta in. Right. This is called magic tape. Watercolorists use it. I mean, normally I think you hear watercolorists use masking tape to tape the side, so when they peel it off, they get a nice clean border. I prefer this because you can get two versions of it, I think. One's a non-permanent and one's a more permanent. Either way, it's kinder as you remove it. I do the occasional watercolor, and I use this for the borders as well. And it's just like, say, a bit kinder when you do demos, when you do live demos, and I've seen a few watercolorists do live demos, and you know when they put a border on or take the tape off and everyone gasps in amazement at how finished the thing looks. So I just thought, in terms of a demo, as you peel it away, you get a nice clean border. So it's that kind of thing. Although I don't get the gasp of approval. But yeah, it's just a way of making it cleaner as a painting. Okay, just going to add some reds and some pinks around here. Just got to be careful not to go too thin with the paint, because I like the richness of the initial layers. So just making sure that comes through. And also I want to get, so there's some of this light green coming through as well. You probably won't be able to see that in the on the screen, but yeah, it's just so there's a streak of more red, then it goes into more green, and eventually this is going to be a stronger, darker color. Thank you for gasping. Wait till the end and then take the tape off. Okay, so there. Right, and just pull this color down. I've noticed when I was doing the portrait book, especially, there's real bandwagons in portraiture, especially contemporary portraits, where you kind of break out of an edge. And for a time, like before I realized it was so saturated, that idea, I started doing that. And maybe as I start to finish this off, I'll show you exactly what I mean by that. But it's one of the things about, I look at quite a bit of art, and you start to see trends, and then people jumping on the bandwagon, and it's saturated a particular idea. Just accidentally put some blue in my yellow, but actually I think it's going to work for the shadow underneath her nose. Yeah, so that's quite a nice color, and maybe we'll drag this color down. She's going to look scary to start with. Just add some warmth back in. And yeah, so the nose, yeah, it's actually going to come up a little bit more. Just lost that color now, because I just wanted to leave space. So for example, her jacket, the collars are going to be there, and then a little bit of that pink coming through, roughly. Okay, more the yellow, bit of pink. And quite keen to get a change in tempo shortly with a stronger dark. So I think we'll do that next. Yeah, so the mouth is going to go about there. Just maybe get the color coming through. Something like that. Just wanted a bit more red, but I think that'll do for now. So eyebrows about there, nose. So the eyes are going to go there. In fact, it's probably worth just darkening this whole area, like so. So one of the issues I find with teaching, that this kind of painting style requires you to be a little bit more spontaneous in some of your choices. And I don't think some of the choices are things you want to dwell on because of the paint drying. And actually, I'm really aware of things like if you give yourself too many choices, you're not going to be decisive. I find that with I know someone was saying about oils, portraits and oils. I find that idea of returning to to correct things, that would make me inconclusive. So the drying time and the nature of acrylics, I think, have definitely made me more decisive in terms of my painting style anyway. Just cautious not to have such a hard edge here. Okay, right, so we'll drop that dark in. So I've already got like a bluey greeny thing going on there. That's more purpley. So we'll go for purple. That's deep violet, by the way, or something like it. It's, yeah, very long. It's deep violet, basically. With some burnt sienna, maybe a bit of green. And okay, we've got a question.
Do you worry about proportions, or are you so practiced you trust yourself?
Do I worry about proportions is the question, or do I trust myself? I trust myself. Yeah, for what I do, the thing is, there's always people who are better drawers, better with color, better with everything else. So I kind of think at the end, you kind of have to trust whatever you know at the time. And rather than try to, this is something I used to get involved with. I always used to think, oh, my next painting is going to be the best one. And you're forever striving for some kind of perfection that you never reach, because you're constantly informing your work by discovering something different or your tastes change. So something that I do now is I simply just produce stuff of what I know now, and that's the trust I have in, you know, the fact that I've done a bit of drawing, I've done a bit of painting. I have quite a big engagement in what I do because I really like what I do. So I don't try to chase. It's really tricky because if someone said to me, tell me a quick thing where someone would like my work, and you can almost have a shopping list. But the only thing is, there's a lot of people doing that. And I kind of think what's more important is a little bit of originality. And that's only going to come from you just doing something and trying to find a different way, I suppose, because none of this makes sense. Hopefully it does. But yeah, I definitely trust my judgment, and sometimes it can be wrong, but even that is a matter of opinion. So so it's a tricky compromise. The worst thing I've found is when you run a workshop, and let's say you see someone do something really good, right? But they don't know it. And the worst thing you can say is, God, that looks really good. Don't you dare spoil it. And then they're going to spoil it because there's pressure and that they're more self-conscious. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's just, I mean, I really enjoy what I do. So while I'm painting, I'm not really thinking about anything other than just doing what I feel is natural, and whatever skill set I have will come through. Okay, so slowly building up. I've added a few things like orange, probably because I wasn't really concentrating. I was too busy talking. I quite like the idea of maybe having the background as a bit of a yellowy, bluey grey. So that's going to come through. So that being the case, I'm probably going to drag some of this dark hair color out that little bit more, maybe. Yeah, it's just so I can use that when I put the grey in, maybe have flecks of that. And that's what I was saying about maybe having things breaking out of other shapes. Just want to do something there. Okay, so that bit of hair is going to be quite a nice, subtle thing to play with eventually. So we'll just get some of that in. By the way, both canvases have got a previous demo on them. So there's a bit of texture coming through. So as I run my brush over, it's just going to pick up some of the color. Yeah, so that just needs to meld in. So we'll just got to be careful the color doesn't go too muddy. And also predictable as well, because I'm using similar sets of color. So I need to just maybe break away from that a little bit. Okay, in fact, I'll work in this area a little bit more because I can introduce a couple of other colors. So just put that down for now. And I think we'll look for, actually that pink is quite nice. We'll just go for the pink straight away. So that's kind of like, it's like an opera rose. And I want this to spring out a little bit. I'll put a bit of orange in it. Something like that. So this is what I was saying, prior to looking like a full-blown portrait, like those colors are kind of what gets me going. Just adding some purple. That's going to work well with the lemon yellow, hopefully. And so there's some pink running through here. These patterns are really nice, but I don't have time to do little arrowheads, so we're not going to do that. And we'll go straight into some strong dark. So Prussian blue, deep violet, this is a greenish turquoise, lovely dense color there.
Okay, so someone said,
got a question.
Could you do this work with oils?
Okay, so someone said, can you do this with oils? Yeah, I've tried on a couple of occasions and some of it worked out okay. I definitely pair my techniques to whatever medium I'm using. So this definitely, I find this works best with acrylics. If I was working in oils, I'd probably adapt it a little bit. One of the worst things I find actually is, it's funny especially when you're teaching something or recommending something, what people don't take into account is the human error. So if you said to someone, yeah, you can do this in oils, that's not taken into account that what will eventually happen is they'll get a little fiddly brush and they'll start doing this blending thing because they can with oils. And all of a sudden what happens is you go down this little mindset of you'll do a little bit there, then a little bit there, then a little bit there, and you'll lose the spontaneity of just boom, blocking things in. And this is the thing about what I was saying earlier, someone doing something that in fact, when I was in Sidmouth last year, someone did this still life and they got it to a point where it was between the representational aspect of the still life and like a really lovely abstract. And it's really hard because they weren't quite calibrated to looking at something in those terms. So you kind of need to get almost your brain sorted before you start, or at least be open to other considerations, I suppose. It took me ages to kind of start looking at abstract or looking at big shapes, colors. Just don't draw everything, almost don't draw, use this. But I kind of think I was really pent up with doing realistic work. So if I could change, I think it's yeah, under the right supervision, you'll be fine. Okay, so just blocking this in. So it's got a light collar there. That's complicated. that's going to be a blue. So we'll go back with this brush over here. Okay, in fact, we'll drop that in, drop these colors in, do the background, and yeah, be finished. Okay, a bit of yellow.
Yeah, the guy said the reason that he asked was because in oils, you might not lose as much paint.
Okay, so just in relation to the last question, yeah, in oils you don't, yeah, you won't lose so much paint. Yeah, that's absolutely, yeah, I do go through a lot of paints, but then it's my job. Acrylic paint is actually quite cheap. The Amsterdam range is a cheap range of acrylics. Yeah, yeah, I counteract that with the fact that I don't use a lot of layers. It's like one layer and then you move on.
Okay, there's another question. What colours do you mix to make your darkest darks?
Okay, we had a question. What color do I mix to create my darkest darks? Prussian blue is my darkest color. I don't tend to use colors on their own too much, so I'll use that with a bit of this turquoise green or greenish. Yes, yeah, I'll look it up in a minute. That or deep violet or green, mash them together, maybe put a bit of burnt sienna in, a bit of magenta in. Again, it's just so it's not one bland shade that comes through. You definitely have more problems because aesthetically, people, again, just gross generalization. People tend to not want maybe paintings with lots of different colors on their walls, which is why sometimes when you go to a, I don't know, interior design place, or you look at prints you can get from John Lewis or something like that, they tend to be harmonized because people fancy more harmonious colors. Now, I don't want to do paintings to suit someone's decor. So, I mean, I'll use these colors because I like them. I'm quite conservative actually when it comes to color, but when I come to painting, I'm doing a painting. I'm not trying to do I'm not trying to create mocha colors for someone's wallpaper or furniture.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't get a word in there. Sorry, Marie just asked.
Do you think you need to go through the disciplines of drawing accurately and painting realistically before you can become abstract?
So someone said, do you need to go through the discipline of drawing accurately before coming to abstract? Personally, I do, because a lot of my favorite artists, especially the abstract artists, have come from a very realistic background. Gerhard Richter is a good example of a super realist going into abstract. So, I mean, I've just understood that when you do still life drawing, it's not so much you sat there trying to draw accurately, it's just the discipline of sitting there looking at something for that long and just that concentrated time, just understanding, oh, that form and that color and that shape. It's not just to win a prize to do the best drawing. So yeah, I didn't understand that at the time, and I wish we were taught better, if you like. But having gone through processes, I'm completely a bit more savvy about. Yeah, it's good to have a backbone of realism in order for then to abstract it into something slightly less realistic. Okay, just pulling out some of the light. We've still got some of the early color. And some of this is quite close to these colors, so subtle wise, it kind of helps. Just drag this out, some light, just catching the chin there. Okay, so I've got to draw in the cheekbones, which I'll eventually do. While I've got this color, I'll also tiny bit of green. Just want to pull out the eyelids. They're just not as light. Just got to be a bit careful. Okay, so that's quite an important little, so that needs to be raised a touch. And this one. And that needs to be raised.
And someone said, you could mention that Picasso once stated it took him 4 years to learn how to paint like Raphael and a lifetime to paint like a child.
Yeah, love that quote. Someone just mentioned the Picasso quote, took him how many years to paint like 4 years to paint like Titian, Raphael, and a lifetime to paint like a child. Yeah, yes, absolutely. Okay, so yeah, so there's some other shades, subtle darks, I suppose. Yeah, just catching the edge of the nose there. Just wanted a bit more heat, a bit of orange, I think. Once you've got that, you can obviously then punctuate it. Just using a clean brush. Just want to get the other colors in, and then we'll revert to a bluey, yellowy, gray type thing. So this color is white, cobalt, and a bit of purple. And just a little bit on that side. That's a slightly different color. Again, while I've got this color, I mean, I might just want to just add a couple of little blobs, maybe even, yeah. Okay, so that's going to be slightly more greenish. In fact, it's a lot darker, but I'm just going to go for that because I quite like this shade. There's some orange coming along there. Okay, so I'm going to go back to that, but we'll just do something with the background. This color is actually quite nice for that, but we want to go lighter and thicker. So lots of white. So it's kind of a bit of yellow, bit of green, bit of gray, bit of light blue, bit of yellow ochre. Way too green. Yeah, actually that's not too bad. So we'll try that out. Okay, so maybe a bit more of the golden, just to match it in with her skin tone. Okay, so what I want to do is bring this color into her hair. And it might have to go a bit darker, just so it doesn't, no, maybe not. And so I've got this mark just protruding forward, so just maybe just skim over it and drag it down. A bit more in the way of yellow. And just use this to draw the profile in. By the way, we do have a website which we occasionally add to, called Picks for Painting. And it's got the odd workshop on it. Actually, it's got a few workshops on it, where you can do the workshop. And if you, if you do that, you can send me the artwork and I'll critique it. It's just our pitiful effort to get online and do something. Unfortunately, I started getting busy with painting, so we were going to be a lot more productive on that side, but I did something recently. But yeah, if you go to picksforpaintings.com, you'll see what we have on there, and I'll endeavor to, I'm going to put something on next week, landscape, but yeah, that's something we have. Yeah, Marie will put details in the chat room, I think. Yeah. Okay, so just on that side, and then we'll go in and finish off. A bit more yellow. Just get that blue going. And bit of yellow. And in here, that's a nice shape, the way the hairline kind of skims round, and there's a nice little shape here and just sweeps in. Can just drag that out. Yeah, if it's too strong, just a gentle skim over some of it. And yeah, so just correct that edge. So I like things like where you can meld that color into the background, just to break into the shape. And okay, so I can use the same color for the highlights on her forehead, just a bit lighter this time. So lemon yellow and white.
Sherry says she loves the way the figures emerge out of the paint.
Thank you, Sherry. Yes, it does emerge. That way you can dictate how detailed it becomes. Sometimes it's really difficult to know how much detail you input, because as it stands at the moment, I really like the soft tones. On another day, you could be doing a demo and someone says, oh, can you put the eyelashes in? So it just depends. It's great when you get older, you know, when you lose some more of your brain cells and you don't care anymore. That way, you don't care if you don't put the stuff in. I spend too much time listening to audiobooks about, I don't know, dementia. What happened to your brain? Okay, so cognitive thinking. Right, so yeah, a couple of highlights here. Just show you something.
Someone said also good when your eyesight gets a bit blurry.
Yeah, when your eyesight goes, yeah, that's really good. So that's a painting I've just finished for, it's like a wildlife thing. So it's a lot more finished. Yeah, so it varies from me doing acrylic paintings where there's a bit more looseness to something that's a bit more finished.
Sherry's got another question. Yeah. Did lockdown affect your inspiration?
Did lockdown affect my inspiration? You know what? It's funny. I think I was exhausted when we started lockdown because I'd spent quite a few years working on quite a few books, and I just, I just finished one or it just come out, and I probably needed a few months just to I think for everyone actually just to get to the new world we were living in. And yeah, I think I needed a break. I was trying out a lot of things in lockdown. This sounds weird, but when we're locked away here, we don't really communicate with other human beings for a long time. So we're kind of used to lockdown experience. Yeah. But we did, I certainly noticed how it affected other people, the desperation of it. And also outcomes to do with, God, like survival. That was really interesting. And I tend to get a lot of inspiration from actually, maybe not so much just looking at art, but just seeing, the environment in which you live in. It sounds peculiar because normally I just look at art, but I've just grown accustomed now to just being influenced by what's happening in the news or behavior. And what that does is it kind of motivates you into action because you see inaction, or you kind of see what other people will do with other, to use other people. God, it sounds really deep. Okay, so just pulling some of these out. What can happen when you put these marks in, you start creating severe edges. So if you were oil painting, you could just play with these a little bit more, just to skim them in a bit. I'm not overly keen on that, so I don't mind some severe edges. So yeah, we would have some of them. Just obviously got to drop in some of the lighter bits in the eye. It is nearly finished. Just loving the use of larger brushes and blocks of colour. I really wish I could use marks like this. Thank you. Come to my workshop. You'll learn how to use marks like this. Yeah, it's for those of you who might be a bit nervous about painting, the quickest way you'll get out of that is just invest in some big brushes, maybe slightly bigger canvases than you're used to, because it's like being thrown in at the deep end. The weird thing is when you then work small, it just doesn't seem right because it's so pitiful. Not pitiful. It seems so straightforward. So yeah, the trial by fire working large is quite a good thing. I've made her top lip way too dark. And that blue is actually distracting, so we'll just simply skim that away.
So someone says, my artwork has changed radically since doing your workshop last year. Very liberating.
Thank you for that. Someone said I changed their life through my artwork. No, it's meant to be a bit more radical. I've done a couple of art books, and having worked with some publishers, it's funny because they treat, don't get me wrong, it's a job, but they absolutely have pigeonholes that you will fit into. And they prefer pigeonholing artists to say things like, don't make it too hard for people, make it accessible, make it so everyone can do it. Almost dumbing it down. But I actually think, you want to aspire to something, maybe a little bit more taxing. Okay, what am I doing? I shouldn't be doing nostrils. Right, we're just coming to the end. I used to be able to do 2 demos and probably run a marathon after, but nowadays.
Someone said you don't grow if you don't take risks.
That's true. Someone said you don't grow if you don't take risks. It's true. Okay, just. Yeah, not going to darken the eyes. I'm just going to keep them as a close tones. When I've done demos before, certainly over the last, since we've been doing more Zoom demos, when I've seen the video back, I've said to myself, oh, I would have stopped like 10 minutes before. But yeah, you can never judge. Okay, so that is pretty much it. I might just quickly scurry around and just drop the odd light in. But it's pretty much I always class this as the long goodbye, because it just takes so long to say goodbye. Okay, so a bit of light there. Yeah, that could be slightly softer edge. But hopefully you got your money's worth, two demos. Don't tell any other art groups that. Otherwise they'll ask, they're like, well, you did 2 for those people.
Are you going to put this on your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so I'm recording this. So I'll take out all the bad bits. So it'll be a 10-minute video where I just have all the good comments. Okay, so that's, yeah, pretty much there.
Lots of nice comments. Love your art. Thanks. Another finish. And thank you so much for cracking down.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we are. I'm just playing here. Okay, I'll take the tape off. And anyway, I hope that was useful. And it gives you some ideas about how to use big brushes with acrylics. So you can unmute yourself now if you'd like to. If you have anything to say. Yes, you can. Yes, you can ask questions if you have any.
It's lovely, thank you. Very, very informative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really, really enjoyable. Lovely.
Can you turn it so we can see it face on a bit more, please?
Yeah, if I can get this.
Brilliant. That's great.
Whoa.
It deserves a gasp.
Yeah.
This
Lovely.
comes from nowhere. 1 minute it's just a load of colours and then it's a face. Unbelievable.
Very kind.
Can I show you mine?
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh gosh, it's so wet.
All right, hang on a sec. I'm going to pin you so I can see. Brilliant.
Let's have a look.
That's excellent.
Up now.
Yeah.
Down, up. It's
See
wet.
it.
I'm going to get mucky fingers. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I've got mucky fingers.
Oh, great. Oh, lovely.
Yeah, really
Well
good.
done.
Yeah.